20 minutes out.
Okay. All right. As we start up, just so you know, this morning, once a month, they have they call it an employer breakfast, where, as you'd guess, employers in the area come over here and have a good weekend. And they come in and they have breakfast and they get the spiel about Rankin, and if they have desires as far as, oh, I'd like to hire somebody, a networking person, etc. Well, the reason I'm telling you that, let me find it. I can't remember the name of your darn company. Okay, so one of the people who was at this breakfast this morning was the lady who owns HD Precision Analytics. Okay, so her name is, it's funny because her initials are HD, but that's not what the HD stands for. Okay, what I'm telling you though is she came in and asked. She said, I may have a summer internship position that may turn into full time. Do you have any students who'd be interested? And I went, well, I think so. I said I can't answer for them, but maybe next week or the following week she's going to come in here like the other lady did. She's going to give her spiel. She even said, can I interview people while I'm here? And I said, well, I don't know if that would work well, but we could do something like that where, if there's no one in the conference room, she could do that kind of thing. I have no problem with that. What happened was she was supposed to be there at 7:30 to talk to me, plus her son is interested in the program, but she didn't get there till almost 10 to 8. Okay? And the actual breakfast started with Don Pohl talking at 8:05. So I only got to talk to her for about 10 minutes. All right? So I'm not sure. All right? And I went out and actually looked at their site and stuff, and it's a very small site. They do analytics, okay? And it's said in there as far as the number of people, 2 to 10. So I don't really know. I don't know what she's looking for. She said that they do have a website, and I think that's what it is. It's hdprecisionanalytics.com, I think. Okay. And whatever they use in order to work on this, they use some kind of software that interfaces with both JavaScript and Java and a few other languages. Because when I told her what you all know, her eyes started getting bigger, and she's about as tall as you are, so those eyes got really pretty big right away. All right, and she sounded very excited about what she heard. So, and with her son, he's going to community college right now, but from what I understand, he's not learning a heck of a lot. So he also may go into the hardware program. So she spent half the time with me and half the time with Mr. Knott, who just left. But she does definitely want to come in here and talk. I said, that's fine. I said, whenever you want. I said, just give me a day's notice. I'll change it around, and we'll make sure, I'll let her know, like when we're having tests and stuff. But other than that, I said, any day you want to come in, as long as you give me some notice. All right. So I'll keep you attuned once she lets me know. So on this pretest, the first thing it said there was fully modularize the BMI program. Now, I'm not asking, I'm not telling, but I know that you're all good enough now that you know how to modularize. All right, so what did I do? Well, if you take a look here, my calculate the BMI ended up, I did make some checks in here, but notice that height, validate the height, validate the weight, do the BMI, determine the status, give the output strength. That's what I meant when I said modularize the program. All right. Now, the program that I have, mine is right here. It's kind of funny to me. Just changing those 2 colors made it look a hell of a lot better than it did. Still doesn't look great, but it looks much better than it did. Right now, I've got the problems with the buttons here, but I know what that is. I'm not going to go into it right now. But the point is, notice now I automatically put zeros in here. So when I click calculate, I get that. All right. The problem is with the way that these run is if I do come in here and manually remove this, and I come in here and manually remove that, and then I run it, it breaks. All right, so we have to figure out how to make it not break. All right, and there's a few things that I did. Let's put it this way. I made it better, but it still breaks. And of course, that's not what you want when you create any kind of an app. All right, so that was the first thing. Like I said, I went in there and modularized it. Second, get rid of the default height and default weight constants. All right. The problem with this first thing that I asked you to do right here is the way that Android works, there's no real good place to catch you having absolutely nothing in there. All right, it's already tried to move on, and then it finds, oh, there's nothing in there. So it gets very confused. And when it gets very confused, typically the program just blows up. That's what you saw with what I just showed you. So I thought, well, I can at least set it up, and this is what I did. You may or may not have seen this before, but in that the thing at the beginning where we have that on create, right after I put those references in, I manually set those values to 0 in there. Maybe you saw that when I started running it, and that's fine. The problem is it's still totally physically possible for you to go in and remove those. And if you remove those, probably what I should have done, I'm not literally, it just came into my head right here. Maybe what I should have done is if either one of those were blank, I should have taken the calculate button and disabled it. That might have been a good thing to do. I mean, that literally just came into my head right now. So I'll look at that in a day or two. All right. But there's, you have to realize, and I think you do, that there with so many apps out there, there are just a boatload of really badly written apps. Okay. And there are a lot of good, really well-written apps too. But the point is that if you're planning on creating an app and you're planning on selling it, or you're planning on doing this for a living, you really and truly are the best to assume that the person who's going to use your app knows nothing. You can build in shortcuts if you want to do that. We're not at that point right now. But whether it's a help screen, whether it's doing whatever, all right, you're best off just assuming that the person who's ringing, and again, I've said this before, I don't mean it all to say that they're an idiot. I really don't. All right, but a lot of times they're just ignorant. And we had this talk, I think it was with Charles, about that basically ignorance can be cured. When somebody's an idiot, there's no way to help them. They're just an idiot. All right, but if somebody is ignorant, meaning they don't know it, and you tell them and they listen and they practice it, they can probably get a lot better. All right. This wasn't very hard to do, of course, just changing the size, and I did that. This out of range was just fine. That worked just fine. All right, I put the constants in there, for max weight, min weight, etc. Hopefully one thing that you've had, I'm taking these online guitar lessons right now, and they had a whole lesson on what they call muscle memory. And that's, if you've ever watched a really good guitarist, they can play with their eyes closed. All right, I can type with my eyes closed. That's not that I'm a great typist, but I can do it because I've been doing it so long. All right, and one of the reasons that you've had a lot of the same application is I want you to start concentrating on what's different between the languages. All right, because whether you write a BMI app in any of the languages or anything else, the logic's going to be the same. So what you're learning right now is the syntax, and you're learning, it's a little quirky here because we're not used to building something for a phone. All right. Now, only do the BMI calculation if there's a valid height and a valid weight. I'm again assuming you can all do that. All right. I went online and actually found this. So that is the right chart. I asked you to come in there and add the category for obese. Okay. And that was with it. So you'd have to go back in and think about what that means. Well, first of all, let's see. Okay, obese. All right, am I going to want, am I going to have to put anything in there that's going to be involved in the strings file, for example? And those are all things that you want to sit and think about. All right, then I had you type in or add this exit button. And as I mentioned right here, and if you don't know this, it's not hard at all. I almost pulled it directly out of the book. Let me show you down here. And that is down near the bottom of the program. Okay, I went, and this is when you click the exit button, so I just built an output string. I had to add accumulators, total under, total opt is what I called it, total over, and total obese. Those are probably pretty obvious by their names what they're doing. So I put all that stuff into an output string. Then I called a routine called the toast. All right? And I want you to get used to using toast because they're really a pretty neat thing to use. All right? And again, if you look here, and I guess I'll have to rerun it again. But when you come in and run it, again, I set it for long, and it still isn't very long. All right? I'll just do a couple of them if it does come up. This has been working really well today. Probably shouldn't have said that, but there we go. So I come in and I'll do one of each, okay? So I come in here and I'll put in 72 for the height, and I'll put in 111 for the weight, and as you can probably guess, that person is underweight. All right? Then I don't even have to clear. I'll just come over to here and I will add I will change this so they're about 177 pounds. Do that, and you notice they're optimal. I'll do it again, and I'll change it to about 200 pounds. Now they're still optimal. Okay, that looks wrong. All right, it still says once. Oh, I probably should clear. All right, I think if I clear, I won't get that problem. Now I could force that clear to happen. All right, I could literally call the clear routine anytime they went into one of those fields. I don't know. So let's change that back to 200. They're overweight. I'll go one more time in here. In fact, let's do this. Let's clear and go one more time. And I'll go in again and do 72. And this time I'll do 444. That should be obese, and it is. Okay, so now notice whether I click clear or not doesn't matter, but when I click exit, there's the toast. Everybody see it? All right. And it didn't last very long. All right. One of the things what I wanted to do was after the toast showed, I wanted it to wait for 10 seconds and then have the program exit. All right. The problem is when you put the code in there, it never shows the toast. It just counts the 10 and it exits. So I started looking online, find out how to do it. All right. And I looked and found a bunch of different ways. But then I read something that somebody had asked, which I thought was probably the best comment, was, why do you want to put an exit button in your app? And he said, I guess it depends on the app, and probably that wasn't the wisest thing for me to ask you to put into your app. All right? Because right here, when you click exit, okay, when you click that, there would be absolutely nothing wrong if that's all I wanted you to do. But I want you to do other things. Okay? All right. So again, I didn't have you do anything with Logcat. Remember yesterday or the day before when I showed you that GitHub site? All right, and I said that was one of my former students. Supposedly what he said to me was he's got one of those apps that's in there. It's called like Life Cycle or something like that. It's all done with Logcats. And as you step your way through, he shows you where you are every step in the process. He did that thinking that there would be people who would be looking at this stuff that would be very confused. All right, and maybe that could help them work their way through. Okay? Now, when we come back next week, just so you know, when we come back next week, again, I think I already mentioned this to you, Chapter 5 is going to be on layouts and stuff, okay? It's on layouts and it's on other controls. They also talk in Chapter 5 about how you can nest layouts. You can put a layout within a layout. Sometimes that's a very good idea, all right? And we'll see a little bit of that next week. Then we go into Chapter 6, and I believe Chapter 6 is on events. And you know what a lot of those things are. You know what click events are, etc. So we'll look at a bunch of that stuff. In either 5 or 6, too, they also talk about images. So again, what I'm planning on doing with you is we'll do that rock, paper, scissors, but we'll put a GIF in there. So literally when the program runs, you're going to see two people doing this all the time while you're playing. Now, is that great? No, but it'll show you how you can use an image, all right? And that's the main reason behind it. Plus, you already know the logic of the game because you've written it for other languages. So we'll use that as kind of a jumping off point to have us go into chapters 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. What they keep doing in this second section is they keep refining the tip app, all right, the tip calculator app. One of the things that they will do, just so you see this, is right now, you know this, it looks like this. All right, so you've got what? Bill amount, and you've got this, and then you've got tip percentage, or whatever the heck it says, and you've got something here, and then here you've got the plus sign, and you've got the minus, or minus and plus, I don't care. And then you've got here like tip amount with that, and you've got final bill or whatever the heck it is. And you get that. And I think everybody's cool with that. You understand how it works, etc. All right. What they're going to do in the next section is they're going to get rid of these, and they're going to replace it with the slider. All right. And you've got a lot more control then because you can set the maximum and the minimum for the slider. So you have bad service, maybe the minimum is 0. You got great service, maybe your maximum will be 33%. And all you have to do is drag this, and that number will be updated automatically. Once that number is updated, based off of this number, that number, and that number will be updated automatically. So that's what we move toward. The problem is, what I found in the past with using this book, and I think it's a good book, but people start getting bored. It's like, can't we do something other than a tip calculator? Well, they do a good job of explaining the concepts, but that's, like I said, that's why I want to go through and start working on at least one other app with you. All right, so that's kind of where we're going to be going. Again, I think I mentioned this to you before, but for chapters 10, 11, and 12, they actually have you build an app, and it's a news reader. So it'll go out, like let's say that with all the stuff that happened in Florida this week, you wanted to go out and get RSS feeds and find out up to the second what was happening. You could do that with that app. All right, it's a fine app. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But if we go through that and we go through the to-do list so we can talk about databases, you won't have any time to work on your own app. So I'm not going to go through chapters 10, 11, and 12, and then we're gonna after we get done with that next stuff, we're going to jump right into the third section of the book. That's the to-do list app. And we'll probably build a to-do list app first without any kind of database. So it won't be saving our results anywhere. And hopefully then you realize, well, the to-do list isn't very good because once I turn the machine off, I don't have a to-do list anymore. All right. And then we will save it to a database. And then one of the first things that we'll do then after we get done with that part, that'll get us almost ready to be Kotlin, so to speak, and we'll go back and rewrite that in Kotlin. All right, so you can start to see the differences between them. But it still is my goal. I'm hoping that by the first week in April that we're going to be done or darn close to done. By the second week, we will be done. I want to give you a good month to be working, and ideally 5 weeks, not 4, but 5 to 6 weeks, that you'll be able to start working on your apps. And you really should be thinking right now if there's something that you'd like to do. All right, I know that Colin had talked to me and he said that he kind of knew what he wanted to do and he started looking. He thinks it's going to be way too complex. Then don't do that. All right, you might want to go out to Google Play, or you might want to, someplace else, or just start Googling, popular apps. And there might be something that's out there that you just have an interest in and you want to build a clone of it or you want to modify it somehow, and that's fine. These don't have to all be, let's face it, if I said every one of you has to do an original app, I think some of you would be probably hard pressed. Even if you had a great idea, somebody else has probably had that same great idea. So I don't have a problem with that at all. I have no problem with you modifying something that's out there. The only problem is if you so you go out and you find this real cool calculator. I've given that example before, and you want to modify it. That doesn't mean that you've got access to the code. You may have access to it. Sometimes people put it out there open source. Sometimes they don't. All right. But the good news is if they don't, even if you have to go, because a lot of those apps are free, if you go out to the Google Play Store and you download it, well then you'll have it on your phone. You can download it on the tablets. Now I know Dominic has talked to me, and Amin has talked to me, and I think Tiffany has talked to me. Next week, I promise, on Tuesday, all right, what did we say we're doing on Tuesday? We're having a test next week. I don't remember when that was going to be. You're probably going to say never. But whatever, other than that day, what we're going to do is I'm going to have the tablets and they'll be here for the rest of the semester then. All right? And like I said, what? I don't know. If you really think you'll need them for the test, I can bring them in for that too. Yeah, that's fine. That's fair. All right. And that's basically what I had. All right, so if you get a chance for next week, just page through even. Start going through. We're going to go through, chapter 5, boom. We're going to go up to chapter 6, etc. And I don't want to just sit and lecture all period long, so we will start to build that, probably the rock, paper, scissors. All right, so we'll do that one next. Okay. And I guess Mr. Corrigan is coming in here. That was Mr. Not here before. Okay, he's here. But he was going to stay otherwise. So, and he's going to leave that open, and I think he's going to stay in there. So, is he going to let you leave early? That I can't answer. If you're real nice, maybe he will.